Hi, I'm Kim. I have been away for a while. Um, I don't even really know that there's like one reason or event that caused me to be away, but I had to take some time. It's probably just the world, if I'm honest. The world is just a lot right now. And sometimes I feel like, all right, I'm ready to like come back and be around wherever that is. And then I try it, and then I'm like, yeah, no. So I think that may have been what happened this time. That I was just kind of like, yeah, no. But I have desperately behind the scenes, I don't want to say desperately, let's use a different word. I have intently behind the scenes been trying to get my routines back in order. So when I kind of went quiet, I had moved into my new apartment, and I've been trying to get settled in my apartment, in my body. I am very much going through the process of unmasking. So, unmasking is a term that neurodivergent people use to be able to explain the expectation is that neurodivergent people need to um be normal, right? I hate that fucking word so much. And unmasking is basically saying, I'm not going to try to fight against myself and against my brain and the things that make me feel safe in order to appear normal. I'm going to make the accommodations that I need to make for myself so that I can live a life that makes me happy and brings me joy. So, one of the things that happens in that process is you have to figure out like the best way to be able to make your life function so that you are able to thrive and feel safe and feel comfortable. So, you all know for me that bathrooms is a really big thing, and germs and floors, and it's a lot, especially when I'm in a new environment. But this is my home, right? So I want to feel comfortable and I want to be able. There's a plane, which is weird. We don't often hear like things in the airspace, so I don't know what's going on with that. But anyway, um, for me, there are a lot of things that I have to do to be comfortable in my space. I don't normally walk around without shoes on. And that is something that I picked up when I sold my house in 2019. And since then, I have not been able to really be in spaces without any shoes. So, in my last apartment that I was here, I designated my closet as a space that I would be willing to not have shoes on. So, what that allowed me to do is to feel more grounded and to be able to like get dressed without feeling like I have to have shoes or socks on or any of that. So in my new home, I was able to make my bedroom that space. So I walk around with shoes in the rest of my home, and in my bedroom, I walk without shoes. So that means that I have to make sure the floor is clean and that it's not like all kinds of particles on the floor and dust and, whatever else. So that's been a process. But also within that process, I started dating someone, or I have been dating someone, and his way of existing is very different than mine. So he's been here, and I've been like, because these things like make me freak out in my body. And for someone who is neurotypical, they don't think it's a big deal. You know, they don't think it's a big deal that when I say I don't walk on bare floors, that I am literally fighting against everything in my body, or to walk into a public bathroom, or sometimes to even take a shower or brush my teeth, depending on what else is going on. So I've been spending and expending a lot of energy trying to explain that. And that has also caused additional stress, for lack of a better way to put it. So I've been working with my psychologist for the past few weeks of setting routines and getting routines in order. Basically, she said to me the other day, and I have a podcast with my cousin now called So You Don't Put Syrup on Your Grilled Cheese. And we have this running joke about how our mental health specialist will be like, so how do I say this? And this is the hands and the posture for they're so concerned. So my psychologist did that the other day, and she's Mexican. So we're like, ¿Cómo se dice concerned? But basically what she told me is that I have been trying to force myself to like hurry up and get better, and like, you know, I want to get out and I want to do these things and all that, and I'm like skipping the original steps of grounding my day and getting myself to a place and space where I am able to not have to feel like I'm forcing myself to do every single thing, right? Like I shouldn't have to feel like I'm forcing myself to open the blinds, or I'm forcing myself to brush my teeth, or I'm forcing myself to make up the bed. Like if these are things that do actually bring me joy, then how can I put myself in a position where these things naturally happen, as opposed to it being this task list of all the stuff that I have to do. So I have been working on that a lot. And to the outside, it might look like a lot of nothing. But in my mind, I'm like putting all these pieces together. So I had tried to like do some things with Alexa and like trigger some routines and stuff like that. But I ran into some roadblocks. So I actually I actually started programming my Google Home today to be my assistant, to be able to help me, right? And again, for an accommodation, like I need an assistant. I'm somebody who needs help with everything, right? Like I have all these amazing ideas, but I can get very overwhelmed, especially when I'm in a state of putting my life back together, right? So I was thinking like, what can I do? So I started looking at the Google Home, and I really like the way that it sets up the routines. And this is not sponsored. Also, though I would love for it to be. But I think that I have figured out the way to be able to trigger things appropriately. So I start out with a good morning routine, and then the good morning routine will lead into my morning meditation, which is a grounding meditation, which again, like I've been doing studies with chakras and things, but I have found myself feeling like I was dysregulated and I needed to go back to just feeling grounded. So today on accident, I played a meditation by Lundrell, and it was the grounding meditation, and it immediately was like, yes, yep, this is what our spirit needs first thing in the morning. So that's going to be the first thing. Then after I do that, then I can tell Google that I'm ready to start my day. And then at that point, Google will remind me to take my medicine. Google will tell me an affirmation, and that's when I'll take some time to journal. So just a little bit ago, I did like my first journaling task. And this is one of the projects that I want to work on because there are certain things that I do need to pay attention to and that my psychologist has asked me to pay attention to. So that's like, what is my mood every day? And the days of the week, right? What time are things happening? So I want to make sure that I'm paying attention to the ebbs and flows of things. Interestingly enough, she told me the other day that she's trying to figure out if I am clinically depressed or if I have something that is called cyclothymia. And interestingly enough, the first time I heard about cyclothymia is when I was with my ex. And he would have these very clear like highs and lows, but it was kind of like in cycles, which is kind of where the name comes from. And it can be, I remember researching it then because I wanted to understand, what I was dealing with, basically. And it's basically like something will trigger a high, you'll stay high for a little bit, something will trigger you back to baseline, then something will trigger a low, and it's kind of like these cycles. And the cycles can happen over various amounts of time. So one of the things that she asked me to keep track of was my moods and what time of day and like all of that. So I feel like in my mind I want to have an app to be able to track all of this, but I'm also not an app developer. But so I decided I'm gonna start doing it on paper. So I bought a new notebook the other day and I just started writing. So like I have my mood up here, and today I feel really accomplished and proud. It's Wednesday. This is today's date. And then I said today is the first day of me having figured out my routine to start the day. I have to become very intentional about this process. The way I start my days really impacts the rest of the day and sometimes the week. So with the help of AI, I am tagging in my assistant. Also, Alexa might be on her way out, especially because I canceled Tidal. I have YouTube Music, so it only makes sense that I go with the Google platform. She's been rocking with me for a really, really long time. And I almost feel kind of bad, like, oh my God. But I do think that I'm going to be able to rehome her. So the guy that I'm dating, he was like, I want an Alexa, and I have two of them. So I feel like I might go ahead and give them to him once I outfit the rest of my home in Google Home, because I need to get one, two, three. I think I need to get three more speakers for both of the bathrooms and then for the guest rooms, so that I'll be able to have every area covered. So that's what I think I want to do. And then once I do that, then I'll be able to gift Alexa to a new home. But yeah, that's what I've been working on. And I have incorporated, I didn't finish telling you about the routine. Okay, so I have my morning routine. I don't call it morning, but I do call it my start the day. Then I have my brain activation, which is when I think about what I'm going to journal about for the day. Then after that, I ask Google to start my morning meeting. Now, if you've been following me for long enough, you know I have this concept of brain people that my friend Lewis and I came up with as a way to talk about what's happening in our brains and also appreciate the differences in how people's brains work. So, and I'm going to write a book about it one day when I sit down and like actually do it. But one of the things with the brain people concept is that our brains are not always like ready to go all the time, especially if you're a neurodivergent person. And let me pause here because I haven't like explained what neurodivergence is. Neurodivergence can be a whole bunch of things. It's a lot of people think of it about like autism. So if you're on the spectrum, they will call it. ADHD is a neurodivergence. PTSD is a neurodivergence. These are neurodivergences are basically things that make your brain different from the quote unquote neurotypical brain. A neurotypical brain is a brain that is in its fully functional, healthy form, doesn't have any deviances. I personally do not believe that there are true neurotypical people because everybody has experienced some type of something traumatic event. I feel like that has changed your brain chemistry, but I'm still doing my research, but apparently there's like a threshold. If you go over a certain point, then now your brain is considered neurodivergent. So one of the things that I have been researching over years, really trying to understand myself better, but it started with trying to understand my students, is this concept of neurodivergence and understanding everybody's brain doesn't operate the same, right? So with my neurodivergent brain, I'm working with all, and some people call it neurospicy, right? Because I also believe that neurodivergent people are absolutely the people that you all, because we're so interesting. Like we have so many thoughts and we're funny and like all of that because of the types of connections that we make. So many of your favorite people are probably very neurospicy and neurodivergent. But, in my neurodivergent brain, have to, I've been working on allowing my brain to just do what it wants to do and to honor the way that my brain naturally operates as opposed to me trying to make it neurotypical, right? So that goes back to what I was talking about with the accommodations and everything, being able to give myself what I need to be successful instead of fighting against myself to make myself be normal. And just let me go on this about this thing normal for a second, because I'm gonna talk about this on a podcast episode tonight. Heal That Shit, which is my podcast with Bianca, my best friend. But I have spent so much time over the past month or so explaining about this concept of normal and how flawed it is. When you think about normality is usually and often and most likely situated in whiteness. White people are the ones who have determined what the norm is, right? If you think about things from even hair care products or skincare products, right? And they have your skincare would be normal skin, oily skin, dry skin, combination skin, rubber like normal. Who are the people that y'all were studying for normal, right? Or hair care, right? You have your normal shampoos and conditioners, your Pantene, your Garnier, your white people shit. Then you have your ethnic hair care, right? Because it's not normal, right? When you think about a concept of like skin tone things, right? Flesh toned stockings, shoes, band-aids, crayons, right? That was all situated in whiteness. So this concept of normal, I really, really buck against, because normal is very subjective. What was normal in my life is not normal in somebody else's life. So I was having conversations with people here in Colombia about this concept of normal and understanding, because it's something that they say very often, like, oh yeah, well, it's normal. So then I'm like, I have no idea what that means, right? I grew up in a completely different country, speaking a completely different language. I have no idea. Completely different culture, family structures, like laws, like customs. But what does that mean? And I would be greeted with normal is normal. Which, by the way, if you didn't know, defining a word with a word is, one, incredibly unhelpful, but also it's really insulting, because I just told you I didn't know what the original word meant. So then you're going to tell me the word twice to tell, like, and it's frustrating for me. It's frustrating for me as someone who has a very intimate relationship with words. And one of the things that I've discovered in my unmasking journey is that everybody doesn't have the same relationship with words. Some people use words very, very casually and very flippantly and very recklessly, and they just say any motherfucking thing. Okay? I am not one of those people. Words mean things. And when I use particular words, I use them for a particular reason because that was the best word for that situation. And I continue to be confronted with people who don't understand that words have meaning, right? So, one of the words so my word was normal. The word that they were offended by was silly. Now, silly has hella context, right? You can say that somebody is silly as in you so ridiculously immature and childish, or you can use silly as you are so childish and full of joy that it brings me joy, right? I use silly the latter way, right? I describe myself as silly. I describe situations as silly. Like it's a word for me that brings me joy. But that word does not really translate properly into Spanish. So when you try to say silly in Spanish, it takes on that first connotation of stupid, ignorant, immature, dumb, low IQ, like all of that, right? So because I was speaking to someone who speaks English, right? They're from Colombia, but they are not a native English speaker, right? English is their second language. And I'm using this word silly. They were thinking that I was insulting them. And I was like, that was not an insult at all. It was actually very much a compliment. And I showed them that, like, look, I describe myself as silly here. I say that I'm super silly. But it just goes to show that words do have meaning, right? And when we're using particular words, that words can cause unintended harm. And I didn't realize that I was causing unintended harm. The same way I asked them, I was like, well, if you thought I was insulting you, I need you to say something. Like, don't just be like, allow me to insult you, because I could have told you a long time ago that's not what that word means, right? But they, for whatever reason, didn't feel comfortable sharing that. So anyway, that is one of the things that I am constantly and consistently willing to be held accountable about, because words have different meanings and different contexts and different places. And I don't ever want to be guilty of harming someone with my words, especially if I don't know that I'm causing harm. There are certain times that I choose to use particular words to put people in their place, and I will freely say God is still working on me. But I don't ever want my words to be the reason why someone feels that they are not worthy or that they are not enough. So I was thankful for that conversation, but it was a really hard conversation because there was a lot of hey Google, turn down the volume. There was a lot of things that had not been voiced. So it was a lot to unpack, like at one time. But I'm grateful that we have now had that conversation and we have an understanding. So in my unmasking and in my growing understanding of how my brain works and how other people's brains work, it makes me that much more intentional about being transparent about this process that I'm using to put my life together. I'm not going to even say back together, because I don't know that it was ever together, y'all. For real. Like, I don't know that when I was functioning in what appeared to be a normal capacity, that I was really functioning. I really feel like I was slowly chipping away at my sanity, and then that's when everything broke. So I say that I am putting my life together now, and I'm putting it together in a way that is going to honor who I really am and not who people want me to be, in a way that is going to give me the ability to feel safe, psychologically safe, emotionally safe, physically safe in my life, and a way that is going to allow me to help other people who may be going through the same process and trying to figure out how to best show up for themselves. So, in that, I have recommitted to vlogging and to sharing the pieces of my life that I have been trying to figure out behind the scenes. So, um, it's a lot. It's a lot just to think about the distribution and where to put everything, like the plan for it. But I do think that I have some support, and I think that God is going to be sending me the additional people that can support me in this process. And basically, also, I had to just let go of perfectionism because I want things to be all polished and for it to be this great rollout and all that. And the truth be told, y'all, my life ain't polished right now, all right? It ain't no rollout plan. I'm just out here trying to get it together. And I know that there are people like me who feel like you're winging it. And I just feel like we need representation, okay? We need representation from people who are also trying to figure it out. So I'm inviting you on this journey with me. This is a really big part of my healing and my process. And I'm going to do a better job at sharing that with you all. Of course, my Patreon will be the ones who get the real deets, you know, because they have shown up for me in unimaginable ways. And I'm deeply, deeply grateful for them. And so, if you are wondering about all the other stuff that's happening, please do join me over on Patreon at Minding My Black Ass Business. It is a way to financially support me as well. It is only $5 a month, and that $5 really, really, I don't know if you all have ever seen things when they talk about small business owners and like how much, buying their t-shirt or whatever helps. Like that $5 may seem like, girl, here, take this $5. But for me, thank you, because I need that $5, but also thank you for letting me know that my life and my life's work and the things that I am doing have enough impact on you for you to say that you are going to take your hard-earned money and use it to support me, my life, and my mission. I do not take that lightly. I really think you never feels like a big enough word. But you all have no idea how your prayers and your messages and your comments of support have reminded me that this is not in vain, that there are people who are praying for me, there are people who are looking for me and wanting to look after me. I don't take it lightly. I really don't. So thank you to those of you who are already a part of my Patreon. And thank you to those of you who feel moved to come to be a part of my Patreon. I'll be talking to you all soon. I love you very much. Bye.